If you're alive right now, then you've undoubtedly heard of Hannibal Lecter. To you, he might be the creepy cannibal from The Silence of the Lambs, the ambiguously homosexual cannibal from NBC's Hannibal, or, if you were me at age 10, the terrible freak on the poster at Blockbuster. But odds are, you probably don't know Hannibal Lecter from here. This is Michael Mann's 1986 movie Manhunter, which was the first ever screen adaptation of the character from Thomas Harris's 1981 book, Red Dragon. And that's because Manhunter kind of flopped. It didn't make back its $14 million budget, and it got mixed reviews from critics who felt that it put its Miami Vice style over substance. Regardless, the plot of the movie will probably be at least somewhat familiar to you. Will Graham is a disturbed FBI profiler, and in order to catch a serial killer who's at large, he is forced to collaborate with Hannibal Lecter, who is, in his own way, also an expert on serial killers.
Didn't you really feel so bad because killing him felt so good, and why shouldn't it feel good?
There are a lot of giallo-lit action sequences in this movie, variable frame rates, tense romantic scenes bathed in blue light, and some thrilling forensic detective work, but today, I want to talk about Will Graham going grocery shopping with his son.
What are you going to tell him?
See, at the beginning of Manhunter, Graham promises his young family that he won't return to his FBI casework because it's had too big of an impact on him. We later learn that he was attacked by Lecter while helping to capture him, but there was more to it than just that. His job was to get as close as possible to people committing the most inhumane acts of violence imaginable, to get inside their heads. In imagining these horrific acts, imagining himself committing them, he lost his sense of himself. Actor William Peterson received some criticism for his sort of wooden characterization of Graham, but to me, he reads like he's holding inside the totality of Lecter's cruelty all the time and trying not to lose control of it, so he puts up this cool exterior to keep himself off the edge. So, of course, in the story, Graham does go back to the FBI, and naturally, in doing so, he endangers the lives of his wife and son. Luckily, they're sent off to an FBI safe house, and it's during that impromptu vacation that Graham and his son Kevin take a little shopping trip together.
What happened?
Well, Lecter was attacking college girls, and he killed them.
How?
In bad ways.
This scene serves dual functions. Within the narrative, this is where Will can begin to reconcile with his son after betraying his safety. But for the viewer, this scene also satisfies our curiosity about what made Will the way that he is.
I tried to build feelings in my imagination like the killer had, so that I would know why he did what he did, because that would help me find him. When I was sitting in Lecter's office, and I looked up, I saw a book on his shelf. It had pictures of war wounds in it. And I knew it was him. So I went to a payphone down the hall to call the police. And that's when he attacked me. You and Mom came to see me in the hospital, and that helped a lot. But after my body got okay, I still had his thoughts going around in my head.
Kevin is a proxy for the audience here. He's just a kid, so he's allowed to be disarmingly direct when he's asking these really difficult questions.
Barry's mom had this newspaper. It said you were in a special hospital.
Well, it was a regular hospital. And I was transferred into the psychiatric wing. That bothers you, doesn't it?
I don't know.
So, what other scenes look like this? It's not just brightly lit. It's positively sterile. Most of this film takes place in darkened rooms. The photo lab where the killer Francis Dollarhide works, Graham's hotel room away from home, or these blood-soaked crime scenes. But there are only a couple other sets where we get this blinding white light. One is Lecter's prison cell, and the others are all inside FBI headquarters. Will imagines himself as a protector. He defends families and their unadulterated domesticity from intrusions by forces that would seek to pervert and destroy them. But these stark white rooms are sites where the line between protector and intruder becomes hazy. These are rooms where, in order to be a protector, Will must think like a killer.
You know how you caught me? The reason you caught me, Will, is you're just alike. You understand?
He must allow himself to become obsessed with violence. His job is to hunt Francis Dollarhide the same way that Dollarhide hunts innocent families. So if this type of antiseptic backdrop signals a communion between cop and killer, what does it mean that this is also where Will reaches out to his alienated son? On one level, it makes sense that in this moment, even though Will is not directly experiencing it, he is reflecting on the dissolution of identity that occurs when he does his profiling work. But there's something else striking about this setting that isn't present in all the others that we've discussed. It's these cereal boxes. When I first watched this scene, it was hard to take my eyes off them, and luckily I'm not the only one, because some guy named Matt wrote a blog post going through the greatest hits of cereal boxes on display here. But apart from 80s nostalgia, there's something else these signal. In their silent voice, they're screaming out the names of brands. As Will tries to grasp at a relationship with his son, the backdrop is a wall of homogenized commodities. And when Kevin reaches back,
So what kind of coffee do you like?
it's with recognition of his father,
You like that Folger stuff, right?
but that recognition comes in the form of his consumer identity. Here's a man who drinks Folgers coffee. And I'm not saying Kevin is a bad kid or anything like that. He wants his dad to be normal and healthy, and he's worried about him. But the first thing that comes into his mind when he thinks of having a normal dad is what kind of coffee a normal dad might drink. What kind of product might resolve his dad's violent neuroses. Red Dragon is a 2002 film based off the same source material as Manhunter, but featuring the Silence of the Lambs' Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal. In Red Dragon, the story that Manhunter's Will tells his son isn't a story at all. It's shown to us directly as the opening scene of the film. Red Dragon takes a more conventional approach to the crime thriller genre, so from the start, we already know everything there is to know about Will, because he's the protagonist, and we're supposed to connect with him. Throughout Red Dragon, Edward Norton's Will Graham is emotive and earnest. In other words, he's relatable. Will Peterson's Will Graham is not like this. Of course, there are things about Peterson's Graham that we can relate to. He loves his family, and he cares about justice, but he's not an open book the way that Norton is. And we don't get this very crucial piece of his backstory until over an hour into the film. And I think as a result of this, Manhunter can sometimes feel less like we're experiencing a story through Will's eyes, and more like we're just watching him. The same way that Francis Dollarhide watches the home movies of the families he intends to kill. The same way that Will watches those same home movies as he imagines himself as Dollarhide. In a retrospective on Mann's filmography, Aaron Aradias and Matt Zoller Seitz talk about how Manhunter draws parallels between the voyeurism that drives both Graham and Dollarhide and the voyeuristic impulse we indulge by watching films like Manhunter. In other words, Manhunter is implicating us, its audience, in the cycle of watching, in the communion between cop and killer. This voyeurism alienates the watcher because they're only watching, not engaging, and not being seen in return. It has alienated Dollarhide, it has alienated Will Graham, and it has alienated you.
he wanted to create a real visual aura for the film so that audiences, instead of the movie coming down into the audience and hearing people would actually go up onto the screen. People would be drawn into
In this moment, Will Graham is trying to be earnest and vulnerable, but it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like we're supposed to understand him. It feels like we're supposed to consume him, like so many boxes of cereal packed onto a grocery store shelf.